the Thieaudio Monarch MKII. Let's talk about it. The Thieaudio Monarch Mark II. We ask ourselves the question, is this a legendary IEM? Now, I personally reviewed this IEM a few weeks ago, so I'm going to include that written review here at the end. We're going to make a few amendments, and if you want to watch to the end, I'd appreciate it, but you don't have to. We're going to leave a poll asking ourselves, the community, of whether this IEM is legendary. We're going to give some takes, and we're going to go from there. One of the things we want to talk about is look at a few reviews of known reviewers, of whether they liked it or not, whether it's objectively good or just what people thought. The first review that we're going to look at is a 4-star review from Mark from Super Reviews. He had a lot of great things to say about this IEM. The second review is from Critical himself, who he's recently talked about in different videos, talking how great it is. And the third one is from Timmy, who gave it a solid A+. I think these are 3 well-known reviewers, and that can kind of prove the case on whether this is legendary. But is it? I recently got to go to a meetup and got to experience the new Valhalla. This is a really interesting IEM of how the technology and shells have changed. The full metal shells on the Valhalla make it a question of whether this shell itself is still a legendary IEM. The sound on this is great. It's a lovely IEM, and those things haven't changed. But I want to propose and have you guys really ask yourselves the question, is this IEM legendary or is it not? Please vote on the poll. If you'd like to watch the rest of the video, please feel free to. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And next week, we will definitely have more new content. Thank you. Now, this is a personal unit. And one of my Discord members asked me why I don't have a review of this up. So I decided to take some time and review it. This is kind of a slow point in the hobby with, Chinese New Year coming up and a couple samples getting delayed. So it's nice to be able to have a moment to talk about one of my favorite IEMs and one of the highest ranking IEMs on my ranking list. Let's get into the build quality of this lovely IEM. So let's look at this IEM. The Monarch is in the middle, the Annihilator on the left, and the Afu Magic 1 on the right. And you notice that the Monarch Mark II has a little bit of an interesting shape. And what you notice about it is it's not very big compared to the Annihilator. And it is, it's kind of interesting. It's a little bit of an older shell. The angle that the cable goes into the shell is sort of unique, but it has a nice nozzle, though some people find it too much. You look at it, and there's a lot of similarities to the two. It has a nice faceplate, but, some people like it, some people don't. But it's a fair-sized IEM. It fits me well. It has a mini little lip. It's a flat 2-pin cable connector. Note, this is kind of a newer unit. I want to say it's about 6 months old or so, and I purchased this recently. And this is the stuff that's included in the box: some tips, cleaning brush, and different types of connectors. This is the case. It's kind of a legendary case that's used on a lot of their IEMs. It looks nice. It has their logo on the front. It feels nice in hand. It's rather large. And it has a nice zipper. Nothing too fancy, but it's a nice Thieaudio case they've used in many models. This is the stock cable. Nice red and blue connectors. It's not a bad cable. It's kind of fabric, but it doesn't bother me. It has a chin slider that stays in place and a Y split that is heavy and durable in hand. Now, you can terminate this in 2.5, 4.4, 3.5. It's kind of unique. You kind of have to line it up and sort of just shove it in. I never had this come undone, and it feels durable and well made. So how does this sound? Very good. A little bit neutral, but with just a hint and dash of fun. Clean upper mids, nice details and sparkles. Great clean bass, and it overall works really well for me, for my library, and what I like. It's one of the better sets to me out there in the world, but I do have some biases. This has always been one of those sets that I've coveted and loved, and it's always been on Chronicle's ranking list, and a lot of other reviewers like Timmy from Thieaudio, or Tim Talks, or whatever he wants to call himself with this new YouTube channel, is like. So this has always been a special IEM in my regards. Let's look at some graphs, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about this IEM and try to explain really why I love it and why I think it's special. Let's look at this IEM's graph. Now there are two units that are on my squig. There's the MRS unit and the jaytiss unit. This is the MRS unit, and you'll notice that it graphs with a lot less base for a couple reasons, and it's also possible this is an older unit versus the one I got, as it is a used unit, but it was recently returned from the factory and redone due to some issues. So that's kind of the story with that. This is that unit, I believe, on Mark's rig, so you can kind of take a look at it and see how that looks on his and kind of compare. Again, it's the exact same unit. If you guys are interested, you can kind of compare. And so as we look at these two units, you'll notice that my unit's a little bit different, and I kind of dig it. It's possible like the alignment of a few things on the coupler are not off, but it does look like there's a lot more bass here and a little bit more energy through the treble, and it's just a little bit different. So that's just kind of something to note. So I will be using my unit because that's my unit and the one that I have on me, and that's kind of the one comparisons, but it's interesting to kind of tell what those differences are. Now, I also had the opportunity, and when the Monarch Mark III came out, I bought that, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I felt like the mids were a little bit scooped through here, and this is Kren's rig, and you'll notice that there's a lot more treble and treble energy on the MKII, and it just feels a little bit brighter for me. Personally, I can see how people would like it, but for me, it just wasn't really what I wanted. It didn't feel right. It was fatiguing, and it had some other issues. So I wanted to compare this with a few of my other favorite IEMs. Another one of my favorite IEMs is the Annihilator. And the Annihilator I really like, and a lot of my target curve has been based on that. And the Annihilator is a great sounding IEM. Some people might like it better, some people might like it less. It does kind of have this, a little bit of a 10K peak, which can kind of come across as a little bit maybe phony or unreal or ethereal to people. A lot of people feel the Annihilator is bright. I really like the feeling and the extension of the Annihilator 2023, and I really think it's a fantastic set that I completely love and enjoy. They do different things. The Annihilator has a little bit more bass. It feels a little bit more U-shape. But the Monarch is a little bit more flat and even kiltered. Its mids are a little bit richer and less thin. It's a really fantastic set, and they're both really nice sets. And you'll notice that a lot of graphs are really close to the curve and have minor kind of changes of how to kind of improve or to change things. And it's just something to kind of note. Another one of my favorite units is the Terra. Now, a lot of people call the Terra bright. And you'll notice to me, the Monarch and the Terra both have very similar bass. Let's maybe even normalize this at 500. Sometimes you need to do that a little bit. You notice the Terra does have a little bit more brightness than the Monarch, and I can see how people may not like that, but I feel like it's still within the realms of a fun, engaging set, and it really does something special and unique, and I like how it sounds in ear. And it's also a very good set. But there's something about that Monarch, and it's mid-treble and kind of presence region and air are just done so very, very well. And it's very smooth and nice. As we look at some other sets, this is a unit that I've recently done a review on, the Europa. Now, the Europa has a fantastic graph. You'll notice they're very similar. Really strong amount of bass. And I think the reason that I like the Monarch better, well, first of all, it's a lot cheaper. It is an older unit, so I mean there might be some minor things that are different. But the thing about the Europa is that the shell isn't very comfortable for me. I think if the shell of the Europa was a little bit more comfortable and stayed in my ears a little bit better, like if I could get a custom Europa, I'd buy one in a heartbeat. But you'll just notice how close those curves are, and there's a lot of similar things going on with both of these IEMs. The Europa is a phenomenal set. It's absolutely beautiful and fantastic. It is a lot more money, and it's hard to say, you know, in this level of the hobby. You just kind of have to think of them as IEMs and what might work for you, rather than thinking this is good or this is bad and this is bad or this is good. Just something sort of to note. But the Europa, it holds its own and then some, and it is a fantastic set that I'm a huge fan of right now. You know, as we look up, you look at a lot of other sets out there, and then there's stuff like the Chopin, and the Chopin has really nice bass, maybe a little bit of tucked, this lower mid-range, not as thick, but they both kind of have a lot of similar characteristics, at least on my curve, and how they look. The Chopin has a little bit more kind of upper presence region, but there's something to be said about this tuning, and this is kind of my jam, and this is what I like. A little bit of detail, a little bit of slight hint there, and nice detailed rich bass. And you know, the Chopin, well, not the best one, it's been growing on me, and I've been listening to it a lot lately. But I mean, the Chopin has reasons not to like it, you know. Sometimes it's hard for some people to like collabs. I know some people are really against them. I'm not really for or against them. Sometimes they're some of the best neutral units out there, but you got to be true to what you like and what you want. The last one I wanted to kind of show is the Hexa. And you'll notice like the Hexa is one of those IEMs that people talk a lot about. And it's kind of also recently I kind of redid my ranking list a little bit. And the Chopin was my IEM of the year last year. And this year it was the Lime Ears Terra. And, you know, a few years ago, like my favorite IEM, even though I was new to the hobby, was the Truth Deer Hexa. And I think it's just kind of fun to see how things go and where our preferences lie. But again, to me, the Hexa had the problem of being too lean and not rich and dynamic enough. But for its price, it is a very solid set. I would love to see somebody do something similar with just maybe a little bit better extension and a little bit better bass in the Hexa for a reasonable price. And, you know, we look forward to that day when we can find an IEM that can, to me, that have the quality of the Monarch, but be extremely affordable. All right, let's rank this guy up. You know, if you look at the numerical ratings, I've tried to take some time to be very clear about my ratings and trying to get rid of decimals. I was getting some like 9.6, 9.7s on certain things, and it didn't feel clear. And so we tried to make some clarity adjustments, and, you know, some of them went down, some of them went up. But what you'll notice is that there's a lot of characters and qualities of the Annihilator that are very much the same. Part of the upper air and extension on the Annihilator helps kind of make it a little bit less bassy, which is kind of problematic. Something like the Amy Musa really has great note weight and detail. Like the Jupiter has like that note weight and detail that I so love. There are other IEMs out there that do things very fine. I mean, even the Visioneers 10 is something that I could really see people liking. But there's something to be said for me about the mids on the Monarch, and I feel like they're really special and unique. I feel like the air and detail is really good. The bass and note weight and imaging, and it just sounds really natural, wide, and open. And it's one of my favorite sounding sets overall. I just think it's neutral, natural, but it has that hint of fun that makes it just oh so right. And this is Critical's ranking list. I'm bringing this up because I want to say that, you know, it's hard. You can't trust everyone else. You got to trust your own ears. But I wanted to kind of point this out that, you know, they're some of my favorite sets, and kind of for a reason. A lot of times I think sometimes other reviewers influence us, and I guess I want to say that, just because I like these sets doesn't mean you should trust yourself. You got to trust your own ears. You got to try things out on your own. Maybe I'm just parroting a little bit of what Critical is saying, but maybe I'm trying to also kind of do my own thing and trying to articulate why I feel the way I do with things as well. It's a funny hobby. If someone tried to tell me to look at how much better is the Monarch than, say, the P7 or the Chopin, which are kind of my benchmarks, or maybe even the Braindance, it's hard for me to quantify that in numbers. Maybe 1, maybe 2%. I will say this: always demo things when you get a chance. If you have a chance to go to Can Jam, it's a really good thing to do because they'll have multiple IEMs, sometimes even hundreds of IEMs to demo, to check out. Some new, some old, depending on where you go. And so it's a really good place to demo things. It's hard to just trust people. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of biases in the hobby. I have my biases. I know what I like. I know what other people like. But more importantly, I encourage you to find out what you like what you like, love what you like. You don't always have to listen to me or the reviewers. And thanks for watching my video. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Oh, you're expecting a teaser for our next video. Well, we don't have that kind of money. What are you expecting? One of those store reviewers to show up in a saucy little leather number? Go. Oh, I can tell you one thing. We are going to have a collab video. We have no idea what it's going to be. Probably Kryn, maybe Chris. Or Joyce. Don't deny it. She's got range. Go. Get out of here. Go.
Go!
Go.
Go on with you!